Good evening, welcome. I'm kind of anticipating this to be a full house tonight. I'm not going to lie about that, but I'm not disappointed. I can use you all to get out the right information. I'm glad you're here because there are some things that are out there that aren't fully disclosed yet because people just don't know. There is a video online right now that answers a lot of questions that we are going to discuss and talk about over tonight. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you the video, so I apologize right up front if you've seen it before or whatnot. But from that, I'll go into a little PowerPoint presentation and kind of talk to you a little bit about why things were done certain ways and why we're going to go in this direction and looking at the things that we're looking at. So at this time, we'll start the PowerPoint presentation, or the video.
Welcome to Cherokee, Oklahoma. Hosting over 1,500 friendly people in 1.5 square miles, we can grow from humble beginnings. After the land rush of 1893, developers wanted to attract railroads to build through the former Cherokee outlet to transport the large wheat crops to markets. The Cherokee Investment Company bought 100 acres along this route, platted the town called Cherokee, and held a lot sale on February 9, 1901. The first lot sold for $250 on Kansas and Maine. Cherokee incorporated in July 1901. 2 years later, the railroad built a line through it which paved the way for the Irwin Post Office to move and be renamed in 1903 to access the railroad. Cherokee became the county seat of Alfalfa with Oklahoma State in 1907. Largely a farming community, a recent boom in oil and gas has helped median house prices grow by over 35% in the last few years, as well as boost our school enrollment and employment opportunities. A small community is only as good as its school system, and Cherokee Schools has always excelled in academics, athletics, and extracurricular growth, many times with substandard and inadequate facilities. Most of our educational facilities were built over 50 years ago, and many are showing their age. Costly repairs come out of general funds that should be going instead towards student instruction. A long-term solution is needed, with a 15-year vision for renovations and improvements that will take advantage of our current economic growth cycle and will ensure solid education the next 50 years in our school district. The first phase of this vision affects sports facilities, elementary school updates, auditorium enhancements, and a new road ag facility.
I have 40 years in superintendent schools. I graduated in 1987 in Cherokee Public Schools. Cherokee has always been proud about the fact of its facilities and how we take care of those facilities. We have done major capital improvement projects since the 80s. Cherokee has long lasting reputation as a highly competitive school. We have one basketball state championship, 2 football state championships, 9 girls and boys state championships in track, 1 ag state championships, and a highly regarded band program in the past. We have a track program that's one of the best in many classes, and we have a track that's not really functional for the development of youngsters. The track was built in the early 60s. It was a cinder track, and we used to be the host of numerous track meets throughout the years, and that was doing one up in the last 18 years.
My name is Grant Wilbur. I'm a sophomore here at Cherokee High School. I've been in the school here since I was in pre-K. I played this Houston track and field team. I played football. I won a state championship football team. We can go and compete at these track meets, where we compete on a real track and not a fake track. It's like dirt. I'm going to get them geared more towards the state track meets and track meets where we go other places. We need to be able to hold track meets here in Cherokee, and we need to bring kids across the state in Cherokee.
This fall, we'll pay for a new track and field complex that will give Cherokee a state-of-the-art track facility that rises to the level of our legacy. It will encircle a new football field which will be moved north to make room for more parking just south of the new stadium complex. The concession stand will be expanded with new bathrooms, concessions, and an outdoor grill. New fencing, lighting, and bleachers will be added as well as new traffic lanes allowing easier access to the meets and games.
My name is Larry, and I live in Cherokee. We were raised my whole life. I grew up on track, one state, my senior year. So I spent a lot of time on that track, and my family spent a lot of time on that track. I school like Cherokee with the rich track culture like we had, the Philadelphia will go hand in hand with track, we're right up in the state championships.
A new baseball and softball complex will be built just east of the new football track complex. The softball team will finally have their own field, and both venues will have lighting, bleachers, and press boxes, along with a new concession stand and bathroom facility. Parking will also be added to this area.
My name is Margaret Smith. I have been raising in this community my entire life. I have 3 grandchildren. I have a grade schooler, I have one in junior high, and I have one in high school also. Traffic is a little crazy around the grade school because there's just not enough parking availability. And every time I go, I worry about that because it's just really tight. Those kids going everywhere.
So modernization of the building would be one of the main concerns. Technology would be another main concern. And probably if you ever drop off or pick up kids there at the elementary school, you and I at the end of the day, that's mass.
The elementary school needs some much needed improvements. We will update the library, gymnasium, heating and air, furniture, paint, and flooring. We will bring a more modern look to the school both inside and out. In addition, we will address ADA issues with ramping and bathrooms, and we will address traffic and parking issues that in the past have caused delays with the drop-off and pickup of students.
We wouldn't be looking at things like new drop-offs, new parking spots, things like that.
The auditorium to me is really something that's important. When you first walk in, you say, isn't this a big, beautiful facility? Well, you sit down in a chair, and it rocks back and forth, and it's threadbare, carpet's the same. Usually people see their kids on the stage, but sometimes they don't even see them because the lighting is so terrible.
The problem with the auditorium is that it hasn't been updated since the day that it was built.
The high school auditorium will receive several improvements, including new heating and air, updated lighting, new flooring, painting, updated audio and visual, and all CDs be repaired or replaced.
I've been functioning in auditorium since I was a small child, so I haven't seen it all done there. Over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, the OAC program has really increased the number of students, but most importantly, increased the number of showdowns that they've had. So we allow these people to come in and work on their animals in a setting that's conducive to harbor really instructional learning.
Finally, we will build a new VOAC building that will allow us to have a facility that shines with our students. A new 5,500 square foot building will allow our students access to one of the nicest VOAC facilities in the region.
The VOAC thing is huge to me because someday I hope to be able to come back to Cherokee Middle being ag teacher. One thing that will keep me from being able to come back is the ag facility. Because to compete now with this NFFA, you have to have good facilities. You have to have good show facilities.
If passed, this $4.505 million bond will pay for the construction of the following: a new track and field complex, new baseball and softball fields, new elementary school renovations, high school auditorium enhancements, and a new vocational agricultural facility.
We haven't done a capital improvement project since school went down 33 years ago. So it's time to think about what we want to be in 33 years from now.
The proposed bond will affect property taxes, but the increase is minimal. Our median property tax is currently $423. With this bond, that tax will go to about $5.25 a month. For literally less than 18 cents a day per household, Cherokee schools can be transformed.
With the possible passing of the bond will become a tax increase, but not only will we pay on a tax increase, it's just a small drop in the bucket. The economic impact that we can have our businesses, restaurants, hotels, gas stations, it can be huge for Cherokee.
You know, it's worth it to me to pay the taxes on the property for this. Because I have a family who lives here, I have children who live here, and grandchildren. I think that the school is the most important investment you can make. It's one of the biggest industries that we have in our, if not the biggest, that we have in our town. I think that those dollars would be very well spent on the lives of children and the facilities.
The tax dollars are really small compared to the investment that's being put in, and again, not to the school, but the community itself.
I hope that everybody will be able to go out and vote on March 4th. I think this ball year will be a huge improvement for Cherokee Public Schools. I want my kids to grow up in the same good school system. I would like to encourage everybody to get out on March 4th.
I love the transparency. So when people are being informed, and these young people are choosing to come home, rear their children here, build their homes here, put their dollars into our community, and they're entrusting Cherokee Public Schools with the education of their children. I would encourage everyone to circle March 4th on their calendar and vote.
Back in 2008, there was a bond issue that was passed that there was a promise made to the patrons of Cherokee, Oklahoma to have a track. That promise didn't get fulfilled. With experience that we've brought to the table, we can make sure that rest assured that these things will be taken care of. As the superintendent, I need to leave this place no better place where I found it. I think our right field that will be taken care of.
A new track and field complex, new baseball and softball fields, new elementary school renovations, high school auditorium enhancements, and a new vocational agricultural facility. Cherokee is growing again, and our students have a chance to benefit. On March 4th, let your voice be heard. Go vote now!
Well, I really like how that video encompasses the message that we're trying to accomplish here. Without raising your hands, think a little bit about all the different things that you do throughout the year. And then think about these things. How many of you have attended the AEC annual conference? How many of you have attended 4th of July fireworks? How many of you either coached, played, rec ball, summer league on the baseball field out there? How many of you have attended a local high school review, whether it's Cherokee Public Schools or Lambert or any other thing? How many of you have participated in jazzercise? My point is this. Our school is much more than just a school. It's the community focal point of Cherokee. And there's several reasons for that, because we are the only place that can do those things. Think about communities that have rec centers or rec fields. Think about communities that have an area that they can produce productions or have local formats or forums where people come visit and talk about certain matters of the state, or even think about people that are so important and have impacted so many lives that funerals are held in certain places, like this auditorium. Folks, this school is used on a yearly basis at the hands of the community, with no questions asked. Our charge is, as a superintendent and basically a caregiver of taxpayers' dollars, make sure this place is functional. And when I took over, there were a lot of issues. Matter of fact, where Aaron's sitting, that seat right there would lean back into Greg's lap. The seat in front of him did too. The seat that they showed is back there in the corner, all split out. But these chairs have been here since 1974. If you look down at your handles and see the little divots that look like a ball being hammer hit it, that's when we have a bat infestation. That's left over from the back one out. That's what happens. This facility was built in 74, and they put restroom rooms in this facility that aren't outfitted with plumbing. There's no restrooms in there. The little room back there, 4 bathrooms there, but it's storage. If you look, and this isn't by design to have a meeting in here, but the lights that are out. We have tried lots of different ways to try to fix that. We've had several different electricians in here. We've had the fire department in here trying to change out the light bulbs. We tried everything. That just don't work. There are situations with handicap accessible type things where if you have a handicapped person or an elderly person in a wheelchair, you would like for them to sit right next to you in the aisle and be able to see. The fire marshal codes won't let that happen. And typically they're either brought all the way up here or there's a spot way back there where that spotlight is. We're going to try to address some of those things, but maybe taking a couple of aisle seats that rows out and putting a place in the middle there. So, there's things that are happening, and this is the thing that we have here at Cherokee Schools. It's a great day to be a chief because we feel like we are lucky to be in Cherokee, Oklahoma. And if any of you have been outside northwest Oklahoma, you don't realize the luxury that you had maybe in Burlington when you went to school there, or Alva when you went to school there, or Laverne, or Cherokee, about some of the educational settings that you got. I'm telling you right now, if this facility burnt down, and I'm talking from the auditorium all the way to the junior high, we cannot replace it, whether it's insurance or bond issue. We have a auditorium that seats 750 people, and we have a gymnasium that seats 2,200 people. And there is no way that we could replace those items. So my feeling is this. Of course, that's one of the original schools. Where were you in 1981, January 22nd? Can any of you remember, or were any of you born? I can tell you where I was at. I was in 7th grade, Coach Carter's English class. We were sitting right next to the gym, and we were complaining about the cooks burning the food for lunch. Next thing we know, we see billows of smoke going right beside us, and smoke or the fire alarms go off. That night happened to be a winter ice storm. All the trees were coated in about a half-inch ice or less, and it was cold initially, but when that fire got stoked up, it was pretty dead toasty. I can remember the sounds of the trees cracking. I can remember the basketballs shooting out in the air when they exploded. I remember all that like it was just yesterday. I remember my dad's sister, who lived in Maine, called me because she saw it on the news. I can remember them talking about Kansas being able to see the smoke balloons. But my point is, are we going to wait until something like that happens again until we figure out something to do? And the whole point of this process is the time is now. We shouldn't wait till the next catastrophe or disaster. Matter of fact, there's a lot of things that are happening, and you all know what's happening around here that we can benefit from. But because of the age of the building, we are sinking dollars into making it look as good as it did 33 years ago in parts of the building, or some of the parts as good as they did 40 years ago, and so on. Those are dollars that aren't going to instructional processes. And my concern is this. I know there's big things coming down the pipe. Matter of fact, one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about, and is a topic of discussion among a lot of people, are textbooks. I know this. People don't realize that we only get a small portion of funding from the state to help offset the cost of textbooks. In a given year, we're given about $18,000 to $22,000 towards textbooks. When we get into a reading adoption series, which would go K-4 or K-12, when we get into a math adoption series, which would go K-12, if you were looking at all the components, because you don't realize that a high school textbook costs around $165 a book, and then all the essential elements in the elementary, if you're outfitting one class in a grade level, which we have 2 classes per grade level right now, we're talking about $12,500, $14,000 to outfit. You're looking at an adoption year that we could spend $200,000 in real easy to make sure that we are aligned top, down, bottom up. That's coming. I'm concerned about that. And at this point, we are looking at things that we are taking money and putting into water heaters, boilers, freezers. Because of growth, we're adding walls back to classrooms that we took out. We're adding technology type things to help us offset the infrastructure issues we had several years ago. More technology needs, the more speed, more space you need. And so we are trying to keep up with the times with some of the things that we need to do. And if, for instance, if we were thinking progressively and we had iPads for every student and we put e-instruction books or e-technology books or e-textbooks, if they're all going on at the same time, it's going to slow our servers down. And you all have seen the news about how testing all happens at once and the assessment company couldn't keep up with it last year. Well, that would happen here if we did that right now. And we're trying to do things to help that out. And when we do those things, it offsets where we put dollars and cents later. So how can we build? Schools can only build by certain ways. We can do bond issues, which that's what we're doing. And they're called general obligation bonds. Then there's donations or fundraisers like 501c3s. This is what colleges depend a lot on. Matter of fact, you'll see a lot of things happen, as far as flyers and stuff from colleges. We do have a foundation here in Cherokee. It's called the Cherokee Pioneer Spirit Foundation. Matter of fact, when I first got here, that was my first avenue to see whether or not we could raise money for a track. Because everybody that I talk to, when I first came here, I tell people all the time, my job is to be a historian. I talk to a lot of people. And I heard a lot of people talk about the gripes that they had because of the 2008 bond issue. And so I want to confront that right off the bat. That's why we're talking about it in a bond issue too. Is there's a lot of things that didn't cover in that bond issue that people didn't realize. First thing is equipment. When they asked for a bond issue, they didn't realize that we haven't had equipment to outfit a track for about 10 to 15 years. We don't have a full set of hurdles. We don't have 8 starting blocks. We don't have anything that would make it conducive to have a track meet here. If we go out there and look at what equipment costs us today to replace all that or get new stuff, that's $37,000. That wasn't planned in the original bond issue. So I was looking at this Pioneer Spirit Foundation. I'm telling you, I went crazy, busy, pounding the pavement, going to civic groups. How many of you are in Lions Club? Remember me coming to you all on that? How many of you are in Rotary? Remember me coming to you on that? How many of you are in the Farmerettes? I'll talk to you about the track issue there too. How many of you are in the Mothers Club? I talked to them about that too. Local church organizations, I talked to them about that too. I put things in the paper. I sent out flyers. And in 3 years, we raised $10,000. We went from about $22,000 to about $33,000. So how many more years are we going to have to wait to get a track? Well, I haven't even told you what a track's going to cost yet. But that is an avenue that the school has. So yes, we can get donations. The problem is, I haven't been getting any. Grants. Grants a lot of times are great. A lot of times are hard work, and a lot of times are pretty frustrating. And big grants, what they'd like to know is how you are, as a grantee, going to help fund what they're going to supplement. Meaning that they got a $250,000 grant, but they want you to come up with $250,000. And so, how do we do that? Well, we try to show in-kind service and all these different things. Well, folks, I've lived on in-kind service in Cherokee, Oklahoma. I'm going to point out 2 people, and by all means, I'm not singling out anybody or leaving out anybody, but I want to tell you how important they are at where we're at. As I'm going to discuss in a future slide, we have spent over $300,000 in maintenance. If it wasn't for David Newland and Gary Gokin taking off their livelihoods to come up here and make sure windows are fixed, doors are fixed, heaters are going, sinks are running, replaced, whatever, that $300,000 could be well over $500,000. We do not have a maintenance person. And then when they can't do it, we have to go out to the local vendors and then pay. One of my biggest arguments when I first got here was we had this bond issue that just passed, and we had this tile that was laid. Well, the tile people, how many of you had tile laid before? The tile people will not touch the plumbing stuff. So meaning any commodes they have to work around, you have to get a plumber to do it. Well, then I have to go out and get a plumber. Well, that wasn't part of the initial bond cost. That was something out of my pocket. And I'm going to tell you something. This made me mad. Made me real mad. It make you mad as a taxpayer when I'm going to tell you this. For 7 commodes, it cost me $11,000 for them to just take off so they could tile it and put back on. Now, the problem is I'm stuck in Cherokee, Oklahoma. I have limited resources, and a lot of times I need it done now. I can't wait till 2 or 3 days, whatever. And so, we aren't the cash cow, but we are a regular business where people could, make a nice livelihood on the things we need. And plumbing and electric is something that we do all the time here. There is something. I tell the story all the time. First month of school I was here, I got done fixing a toilet over at the elementary. I got in my car, raced up in the city to get in the airport, went through security. Next thing I know, they threw me aside, patted me down, wanting to know why I had a crescent wrench in my back. Well, we did it all. Mr. Hickman, myself. We just made it work. The problem is those types of things are adding up. I get to head up every time that concession stand opens because of something that's going on in there. Whether it's plumbing, whether it's a water heater, whether it's this, whether it's that. Every time this building opens up, we have to deal with air conditioning or heating. It's just one of those things. It's original in unit since 1974. So those are the things that we deal with that basically take out the instructional monies. I talk about forced accounts. That's a way on the back one that schools can do construction. Basically what we do is we hire all the carpenters, all the workers through the school, and we try to get it done. However, that's not going to happen here. We just don't have those kind of personnel luxuries that maybe Oklahoma City has, nor do we have the general fund to help do those things. So looking at bond issues really are our only option. Bond issues can only do this: purchase land, construction of new buildings, addition to existing buildings, renovations, purchase of school furniture and fixtures, and purchases of school buses. Nothing else. We can't hire anybody through that. I can't supplement my salary because of that. It all has to go to those things. Also, the bond issues, you got to know that it has to go to what we say it goes to. We have to specify exactly the things that we're going to identify. So looking at where we're at, these are kind of the outline of the capital building projects over the last few years. The 50s, that part of the building down there was constructed. The high school football field. 62, 64, high school addition was added on this end, and the elementary school, the whole building down there. In the 50s, 60s, Cinder Track, and as you all know, that was, when it was built, the gem of Northwest Oklahoma. It was used basically as the model for everybody else. And it was for years. 1974, this facility, the cafeteria, and the elementary annex were added on as far as capital improvements. And then, of course, 82, 84, we had the high school gym added. And like I said, right now, at this point, we have already sunk over $300,000 in repairs, upgrades, etc. And I've already talked about two important people of that. We've also we, as a school or a library or a government function, can tap into what's called E-rate. It means we get technology type things, 10 cents on the dollar. We take full use of that. We put in for that every year. It helps us get servers. It helps us get our cell phone service. It helps us get our landlines. All that kind of stuff, it helps too. But besides that, we went above and beyond on a lot of things and putting things in the classroom like updating whiteboards, document cameras, all sorts of stuff that help support instruction. So it's a start. What we're getting ready to do, we came up with, through a survey, through a task force, through administration, conversations and dialogue, where we'd like to see. And we've come up with a series bond issue of $4.5 million. It includes financing costs where $3.67 million will go directly towards construction. It'll be a 10-year payout for 8 bonds for 2 years apiece. And this is what's important. This is one of the issues that we had originally in the 2008 bond issue, was there some things that weren't included that took away from the other things that were identified on that bond issue, meaning that there was architectural fees that had to be included, some design changes, those type of things that started eating up what was specified on that. So we've included that, knowing that that stuff is going to be added on in the bond issue. So our goal is to set a tax level that can hold multiple series bond issues to obtain capital outlay projects over the next 12 years without raising taxes from this current proposal if passed. It's based on the growth of our district assessed valuation. Folks, for 25 years, our assessed valuation fluctuated between $11.5 million to $13 million. In the last 2 years, it's gone from $17.5 million to $23.7 million. So basically what we look at as a school is we look at how much can we bond based on our indebtedness to those bond issues that are already there. And that's where we come up with the number that we had. So if you could see this outlines basically 9 huge projects. 9 huge projects that include track football field, softball baseball field, elementary school renovations, high school auditorium renovations, middle school classroom renovations, gymnasium renovations, practice gym safe room renovations, BOAG barn, and cafeteria. When we looked at this, we looked at the gamut of things across the board, from individual classrooms to each building to specific needs within those areas to come up with the $3.6 million. A lot of times people don't understand, when they look at $3.6 million, they think that's a lot of money. And construction cost is nothing. And the fact that we can look at 5 specific units under this is something that we have to be proud about. The other problem is, there are things on this original list that was given to the board and from the task force recommendation that we had to leave out. Things from the elementary school that we had to leave out. Things from the track and football field that we had to leave out. Things from the auditorium that we had to leave out. These were things that I had to sit there and go, okay, what is a priority to handle like this, or what is something I can handle out of pocket? Meaning that, like the gym. How many of you have been in the gym lately and just browsed around? But if you go in the gym for so many years, we used to hold junior high sports, girls and boys, and high school sports, girls and boys, the same period. How many of you knew that? Well, if you go in there, the funny thing is, and Coach Lancaster, coach here when it first opened up, and I pulled him aside the other day and I said, hey, did you ever think why there's not goals on the other side of the gym? So we could go back and forth and have 2 full-size courts? Till last year when, we were talking about how to use our facilities wisely and get these extra little goals that we can move, removable goals, they didn't even have them. They were practicing adult or varsity high school basketball with the girls on one end and the boys on the other. What can you do with that, honestly? Junior high, girls and boys at the same time. What can you do with that, honestly? Why weren't they put on the other side to maximize shooting? Why were we having the schedule anyway at the same time? I mean, you all had different schedules when you were all through school. There are things that changed. One of those things is called Title IX. We have to have equal opportunities, not even opportunities, but equal rationalization on how we provide our extracurricular activities. And so we have to take those into account. So needless to say, we came up with this wish list. It totaled way out there, way above the $3.6 million that we were looking at. And we came up with this, stage one. Current project to cover 5 projects of 3.67. And these are why we came up with these rationale. A promise of a track of its entirety. And folks, this is what I want to tell you about that track. Where we're at now, it's landlocked, right? It's what I call a 6.5 lane track. What's a competitive track today is 8 lanes. Think about that real quick. What happens? Well, you're up against the fence on 7th Street. You're up against the stadium on the north side. So ultimately, what's going to happen? Things are going to have to move. More money than what was initially thought about was going to be considered because poles would have had to be moved, the stadium would have had to be moved, those type of things, just for 2 lanes. Because what they were going to do is this. They were going to keep it in the same location. And you know, that was built in the early 60s, so it was a yard track, not a meter track. And how they were going to combat that was they were going to make longer straightaways and shorter curves, tighter curves. Is that a competition track? No, that was a track just to have a track. And what they did was this. They realized they got some quotes, and I think Mr. Hickman Sr. was responsible for getting the quotes. Is that correct? Okay. And basically what the quotes entitled was the concrete and the surface, $225,000. They didn't take into account to anything else. And they thought anything else they could do any kind of service. Okay? So in that bond issue back in 2008, it was 1.1 million or something like that. It had HVAC units and the track. What happened is they started having issues with that, and that money with the HVAC units started taking away, slowly but surely, the track money. And before you knew it, it was down to $90,000, and then it was down to $60,000. Well, folks, they can't build a track for that because we already know just for the concrete and just for the surface, it's going to be around $225,000. So ultimately, they made a decision to outfit the HVAC and leave the track alone. That's what happened. So when I come back to town and start talking to people about, Cherokee Public Schools, I had a lot of angry people talk about the track and why it didn't get passed. I got a lot of people that, won't donate to the school for one thing or another because they, quote unquote, still mad about the track issue. So when I look at other needs, I have to address the track issue. It needs to be done. And the only way to do it is do it right. And I'm going to break down the numbers here before too long and let you know that the next reason is logistical issues with extracurricular activities. Look, we have a baseball/softball field/practice football field. And in the fall, it's softball season and football season. I've been gracious enough to have coaches that work with each other. And when it's softball game, football players go somewhere else. But when it's this, that, or whatever, softball players go somewhere else. It works out, but the problem is this. It's really not a softball field. Matter of fact, 2 years ago, and it's just the powers that be, I talked to the city about using the AEC park, which was used for soccer. And they continued to want to use it for soccer. However, they were willing to help get us a softball field. We have the land right next to the football field, and ultimately, we have a softball field that's been worked on, that's got light poles, that's got some lights, that all we've got done so far is done the dirt work. That's in-kind service. And, you know, that's just because we're under the powers that be. The other issue is monetary issues with all the sports. We have taken on extracurricular activities to make sure that your child has just as many or the same kind of privileges that other students have in the area, meaning different sports and activities, band, music, the whole nine yards. And what happens is this. We're kind of like universities. Our major money deals are football and basketball. So first week of September, we can count on 5 gates. During basketball season, we can count on 6 to 7 gates. And those two monies we depend on to fund all the rest of the sports that we do. And our last home game this year was February 10th. Technically, we have a baseball game scheduled this Friday or Thursday or something like that. We got track meets already started, indoor track meets. We got those started up and going to the end of the year. They all take fees. When we have baseball games, we have to hire officials. We start the first of school in August, and softball's already started before school started. The first games are shortly after, and we have games up until 3 or 4 weeks before football season starts, before our first gate. So we go from September 1, February 10, and then we go that whole spill without collecting gate. And the whole purpose that we try to do is we try to keep our activities and athletic monies in athletic accounts so instructional monies don't go towards athletics. It is funded by itself. And this year we had to do several different things because, as you all know, one of our football schools didn't have enough to play, so they had to drop us. Some other issues came up. We didn't quite have the gates that we had in the past. And honestly, we had to ask for money to keep us afloat for simple things. And the problem is, we can't keep gate at softball and baseball games. There are schools that actually charge for track meets to get in. We have to look at ways to offset some of the cost and burden. And so we're looking at monetary issues with extracurricular, kind of like a business would. Growth with extracurricular activities, I kind of talked about that already. Logistical issues in the elementary school. Look, my worst nightmare is at 3 o'clock, the fire alarm goes off at that elementary school. Because I don't know how an emergency unit would get through all the traffic that's down there. Have any of you been down there at 3 o'clock? From about, and we've started this the last couple of years, started letting the little kids out before the big kids to try to get some of that logging out of there. It's not one of the primary choices of what we're doing, but it's definitely a reason that we feel like it's imperative to address because it also creates anger issues among parents that sometimes I have to be the judge of. Other issues are educational learning environment of that elementary. Folks, 3 years ago, is painted Battleship Gray and still had all the things that were popular in 1964 with wood paneling and they basically, if you remember as kids, if you went to school there, they used to have sunlights in there, but they boarded those up. And what was funny was one of the first tasks I had coming back was getting on a ladder to change the lights out in the commons area there because nobody would get on the ladder to change the lights out. It was just plain dark. So we were going to look at a lot of different things to make that conducive to learning, make it rich for a child to want to go to school there. Some of those things, include just simple types of things as taking the paneling off, putting painting up, addressing some of the eyesores as far as the storage spaces being right out there in front. Some of the storage spaces that we don't have. I don't even, all I know is this. When I was in school, we had more kids in school then than we have now, and I had no idea how we functioned in that building. We have used every ounce of that building up. You remember where the cafeteria was? You remember where the kitchen was? Well, that kitchen is now the elementary library. And it's not, I can't walk down the aisles of the bookshelves because I'm so wide. If you see where the debt checkout desk is, it's crazy. Some of her reference materials are stuck in an old freezer. These are issues that we have to address. If you go in the gymnasium, and they showed a couple pictures, playing dodgeball for 40 years in there, insulation is going to be stuck a little bit with balls, so there's holes in all that. We're going to try to figure out a way to handle that. We're still dealing with HVAC issues down there, getting them all taken care of, and we'd hope to clarify those things. But anyway, make it conducive to basically the modern era, instead of being just a building that people go to school at. Well, another thing about that is we're trying to be technology advanced down there, put ourselves in a position with document cameras that we can bring the educational environment home to you. Hopefully one day Alicia Mitchell will be teaching in her class, and you can go to her website and see 20 minutes of instruction that's happening that day so you can help your child. Those are the things that we are missing out right now, because what I'm doing is I'm buying 2 or 3 for the elementary, 1 or 2 for the middle school, and 1 or 2 for the high school. And what I'd like to have is everybody have one, get the training here so everybody's on the same page on how to use one, and have it up and running, not, 5 or 6 years down the road that only a handful have it and a handful don't. The other reasons why we're talking about these things are we already have available funds with the track fund, Pioneer Spirit Foundation, $32,000. We got an ag gift last year for $50,000, and the previous track we got $21,000 that can go there, and so those are issues. One thing I'm going to say about the ag barn while it's at, part of the video cut me off on it, and that's probably fine. But the point I was trying to make was last year at the end of school we had 62 students in ag. Out of those 62, we had more town people than we had country kids showing animals. Think a little bit about where those town kids put their animals. They don't have a place. The second thing is this. Since they don't have a place, how are they supposed to foster learning how to groom their animal, getting it show ready? Well, $200,000, and I'm going to be point blank honest with you, is going to a 60 by 80 barn. Now, all you farmers know, a 60 by 80 barn does not cost $200,000. But let me tell you this. It is a student instructional setting. It has to go under an architect and fire marshal approved. It's going to cost almost $200,000 by the time we have to do the things we have to do to that. That includes plumbing. I don't know whether or not we can get sewer there. We might have to address sewer issues with like a lateral lines or septic tank or something like that. We're going to have to address electrician stuff. So what we're looking at is a 60 by 80 show barn that allows kids to work on their animals and foster the need for showmanship at the local level. And again, we've already been given a $50,000 seat for that. We're going to continue fundraising efforts. Example equipment that I told you about for track. If you'd like to write me a check out today, there's a $400 million lottery thing going on. Be sure to go get your tickets today because you got toll Wednesday. And there's going to be some things that we're going to have some collaboration with the city and local utilities about to make sure that it happens. And that's going to be a lot of talking at the school part and your part as well to make sure those things happen. I'd like to see a bigger facility out there than what we're talking about. And some of that might have to be addressed through the city. So here we are, stage one. Track football field is $1.4 million. And I'm just going to take my time to read this. But it's the new surface, groundwork, drainage, high jump, long jump, pole work. You're looking at $450,000. Sod, irrigation, $60,000. Ground, dirt work, $30,000. Candles, which are light poles, lights, $250,000. Repair, replace, or change bleachers, press box, $250,000. New entrance, $10,000. New fencing, $35,000. And then there goes on and breaks it down into scheduled values. What concrete would cost, that kind of stuff. Baseball, softball field complex, $830,000. Baseball field, bleachers, backstop, press box, lights, all of the above, $303,000. Softball field, bleacher, backstop, press box, lights, $283,000. I'm going to tell you, lights for a football field, lights for a softball field, lights for a baseball field all cost the same. It's going to be about 4 poles that can do the work of all the ones we got out there now. Elementary school renovation, paint, flooring, parking and bottleneck issues, driving lanes, furniture, technology, HVAC, library, gymnasium, are all the things that are addressed there. That's $775,000. Auditorium renovation, HVAC, which I've complained about already today, lighting, that type of stuff up there. Matter of fact, if Mr. Harris left today, he would take the 5 only lights we have up here for the stage. Update painting, if you look right over there, on the video showed you where the water damage was. Audio visual would take the place of this and this, where I have to manually put all this together, or manually bring this down and hope it doesn't slide back up during the course of the event. And replace seating. You're looking at $95,000 for HVAC, lighting $140,000, flooring about $30,000, painting about $20,000, audio visual about $90,000, and replace seating for about $15,000. And above and beyond those are all the architect fees that go along with it. So basically, March 4th, put it on your calendar, tell everybody else to vote. You can do absentee voting, deadlines by this Wednesday, February 26th, next week. Early voting starts Thursday, Friday, the 27th, 28th, and you can go to election board office between 8 and 6. Now this is kind of the plan. I'm going to answer 1 or 2 questions, just 1 or 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the people that know. We got the tax guy, money guy here, and he will be out there. So if you want to talk to him intimately and maybe have a question that's more serious that you maybe don't want somebody else to hear or whatever, you can ask him directly. Allison Broyles, who's part of the architect firm, is here. If you've got questions about what things are going to be like, she's the one to talk to, and you'll be able to talk to them directly. Again, I'm up here. I'll answer 1 or 2 questions right off the bat on the general scope of things, and then if there's something afterwards that you want to handle me directly on, come up and visit. But we're here till you all are gone, so take advantage of it. Is there any questions at this time? Yes, sir.
Where would the classrooms be for the elementary school while construction is being done?
Probably what's going to happen is we're going to have to think about things in a timeline conducive when school's going on. So we're looking over summer type things and breaks and different things like that. And that goes on to everything else. Everything will be in conjunction to extracurricular activities too. I mean, we can't build a football field and track necessarily when it's in season. Some of the stuff, yes, we can. You know, we're going to try to work around those schedules during the school. Another thing about that is there's a lot of things too in this project that we can get rocking and rolling on before you know it be done and out, knock it out without you even knowing about it. For example, the ag barn, the auditorium, those type of things. Any other questions? Yes.
Is there a timeline on this? Excuse me. And what's going to be first, second, and third?
That's a good question. Right now, this is how it goes. March 4th is the vote. And you can correct me because I'm going to be a little bit off on this. March 4th is the vote. Then we have to put it out for bid for the bonds to be purchased. That's going to take a couple months. We probably won't see our money to start doing things till around the 1st of August. Am I right on that? So what I'm getting at is nothing will be started till August 1. Okay? As far as priority goes, as far as I'm concerned, everything's number one. I want it done. Again, it goes back to what the scheduling is like and what we can do. And that's something we'll have to talk about to the architects once we get there. And, basically have that dialogue with the contractors that put bids in, when they can do that. And that might be a reason why we accept or reject the bid, too, is how soon they can get the things. Any other questions?
You say it's a 12-year bond, correct, or 15? I've heard everything. So you're actually financing the money out, and projects will start immediately, or I know August.
Yes, basically what we're doing is we're doing a loan. We're asking for the money up front, and it's over the next 10 years.
Okay, but the projects will start. I mean, what would be
The projects will start August 1.
Right. What would be a completion date for all of these projects?
I would hope in a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yes, sir. From day one to the end. My hope is that we're running on the track by not this next track season, but the following track season. My hope is that we're playing football, not this football season, but the next football season. Okay. 18 to 24 months is kind of the time frame. And then, it all depends on what the weather is. It's all outside.
Well, I understand. I mean, and honestly, but I'm one of them guys that has a little star attack.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I think it needs done, but it's kind of like, what do we got in place that don't happen again?
Well, this is the deal. Where we weren't in 2008. Financially, we're pretty sound. Meaning that, I already talked to everybody involved about how conservative I want to be on this. I'm going to tell you right up front, when I told you the light poles and lights was $250,000, I already know for a fact it's not going to cost me over $165,000 because I've already gotten bids. I've gone out and asked people to send me what a bid would be like, and I've told everybody involved that we're going to put cushion in there because I'm foreseeing issues that come up. The other part of that is, which, I'm not faulting anybody for this, there are plenty of opportunities out there that we can lease purchase items, that we can pay for items out of our pocket. For instance, the Miller property, we purchased that. It's not, a lot of times schools can't afford to go out and just buy it out of pocket. They have to put it in the bond issue. Well, that's money that we didn't have to put in the bond issue that we can put towards different things. Other things might be that way too. I might look at something that's designated in the bond issue and say, look, I got that money, I'm just going to pay for it and help us somewhere else. The other things is there's things out there called QZAB bonds, which are for schools or government entities that are zero interest loan, basically, where we can get up to $250,000 or more to help offset the cost. So I've done that at other places. So there's options out there, Greg. We also have a lot more scrutiny as far as the taxpayer goes, because the people that say that it's going to be done for this are also held liable now because it's a serious bond issue for so much. And, we can come back and say, hey, you didn't do what you said you were going to do it for, those kind of things.
What plumber church in this $11 grand to move 7 toilets?
I can't hear you.
What plumber charged $11 grand to move 7 toilets?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Well, I'd like to know.
I'll tell you first. And we fought it and it went down, but you know, the thing about it was they were looking at it as a cash cow. And I've done enough building projects up personally and professionally that you have a licensed plumber, they can charge a certain fee, and then you have apprentice plumbers underneath them. Well, what was happening was I was getting charged for 4 licensed plumbers, and there wasn't 4 licensed plumbers out there. You see what I'm getting at? So, any other questions, real quick? 1 or 2. Folks, I'm telling you, really, in the grand scheme of things, the time is now. There hasn't been a better time in Cherokee Public Schools. There hasn't been a better time in Cherokee to address things as a community. And that's what I want people to understand. This is a community event. It's not a school event. It's not a Mr. Ellis event. There has been plenty of feedback and discussion about things that are happening. Is it everything that we'd like to do? Heck no. Is it something on there specifically that's left out that you'd like to see done? Probably so. But it's a start. It's a start. And we know that we can come back and address those things because we do have a capital improvement plan. It's listed out there. We've discussed it at board meetings. It's always going to be discussed. We're going to tackle those things possibly on an individual basis too. But it's not like we're sitting there and looking at, you know, things for a non-reason. Hey, thank you. That might be my cue. I told people I'm going to be 20 or 30 minutes. One more question. I'm going to finish it up saying this. Look, folks, there's not a person that's more proud to be from Cherokee, Oklahoma than me. And whether you went to a school somewhere else or you grew up somewhere else, we're all the community now. And I've been to different places, and I've seen different things. And I'm telling you, there's a reason why people are moving back to Cherokee. I feel like, honestly, and I look around, and I go to these superintendent meetings a lot, and you got people that are just in it for the job. I honestly believe I have a privilege to come to work every day to be the caregiver of your all's money. I honestly believe that I have the privilege to make a difference in the lives of these children. I honestly believe that when these kids or this community uses the school, that they can be proud of something. That's what I'm about. That's what I hired on for, and that's why I say, you know, when my day is done, I feel good about what I do. I feel good that I work with all of you. We might have our disagreements, but we are all here for the same reason. And ultimately, it's because of Cherokee, Oklahoma. And if people can't look beyond the trivial stuff, then the problem's with them. Because it's all about the big picture. And again, we aren't all going to agree, but it's a start, bottom line. And we got to do something. We can't wait on tomorrow. We can't wait on me winning a $400 million lottery. I used to go around, this is what I told people when I did the 501c3 thing, giving. I don't want your donation now. But I would like to consider your donation when you die. I'm joking around like that. Because there are ways to give money without giving money. Part of that is through a life insurance policy or a home or a car or whatever. And I was trying to get people to look at options instead of just giving me cash. And nobody bid on that. You still can do that. I'm not denying Cherokee Spirit Pioneer Foundation. I can check out for them or your will or whatever. But, you know, folks, if you think about your own personal life and think about your own schooling, there were ups and downs through all your personal things that you did. But I'm going to guarantee you the 12 years that you were in school somewhere, somebody made a profound effect on you. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of good things that happened to me that I choose to remember. I forgot the bad things. There are bad things that happened to me. But Cherokee Public Schools, my time spent here, made me the educator I am today. Thank you very much. I'm going to have Mr. Matt Reichert with McDonald Associates, and he'll be back in the back. And if you got questions about how it's going to influence you directly, feel free to talk to him. I got Allison Broyles, who's holding up the wall over there. She's with Tri-Arch architecture firm. And I tell you what, they've already showed that they're a class act, because I have searched the world over for the quality of architect firm that takes the time and effort to listen to what is important to us. And if you watch that video, I'm impressed already with what they've done. I can't wait to look forward to what they can do for us if this passes. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any time, tell us right now.